Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. My name is Maraiah and today I'm going to be talking about ovulation testing. And you've probably seen a ton of videos, done your own research already about ovulation tests, but I'm just going to talk about what I know, my knowledge. I'm going to try to break it down and make it as easy to understand as possible. So I'm going to start off by talking about my little backstory of my cycle. So I have an irregular cycle. I have a cycle that jumps around from 30 to 60 to 90 to 30 to 90 to 60, sometimes even over 100 days. My last cycle was about 100 days before I got my next period, and it was kind of crazy. My last period currently was back in November 1st to November 7th. That was like my 7-day having my period, and I still haven't gotten my period. I'm filming this video now. It is January 15th. It's January 15th currently. And yeah, anyways, I'm going to be talking about ovulation testing, ovulation tests, OPK tests, tracking your LH surge, or tracking your hormone or your estrogen increase. It's a lot of stuff, but I'm just going to be talking about ovulation testing. So I've started actually with the Clearblue digital testing, the purple one. So I think it's the advanced digital, not the Bluetooth one, but the other one that tracks 4 days before your, I guess, the 4 most fertile days during your cycle. So when I first started using it, maybe I think the first 2 days, I got big, like the circle ones, the zeros, or nothing, nada, no estrogen level increase at all. And then the second day, same thing, nothing. Third day, up until maybe like day 14 of when I first started testing, it's all had flashing smiley faces. So it got kind of expensive, because once I got the flashing smiley face, I wanted to make sure I don't miss my LH surge, because it lasts between 12 to 24 hours. So if you don't test during the right time, you could miss it. It could even last only 12 hours. So you could miss it because you sleep, and then if you take it every day, you take it every 24 hours. So I want to make sure I don't miss it. So I've been testing twice a day, every day, for the past 14, maybe for the past 12 days, and then I stopped. And then I just tested once a day. And currently to this day, it's still flashing smiley faces. I actually stopped the other day, and I started just using the cheap tests, the cheap ovulation test, because I didn't want to waste any more money, because it does get really expensive. But maybe when I notice on the test strips that my LH surge is up and at peak, I'm going to test with the Clearblue just to match it, because sometimes the more expensive test is a little bit more sensitive than the cheapy test. So no matter which test you choose to use or choose to buy, whether it's the Clearblue, First Response, or even the cheap ones you can find online, they all pretty much do the same thing. They're there to help you track or tell you when you're going to have your LH surge, which is your luteinizing hormone. And I've read and I've seen that your luteinizing hormone, your LH surge, lasts for only 12 to 24 hours. Sometimes, depending on your cycle, it could be longer or it could be shorter. So you want to make sure you catch that cycle or catch that surge, and, you know, do the dance, do the baby dance, if you want to be pregnant, or if you want to become pregnant, or if you're trying to conceive. Tests really do get expensive, whether you want to use the Clearblue, First Response. There's a whole bunch of other tests that you can use, the super fancy digital ones that can connect to your phone or has its own monitor. Those get really expensive. So if you have the money for it, go ahead and splurge on it if you want to. But sometimes the test strips do the same thing. They may just take a little longer to read. And I say that because sometimes those test strips, the dye that runs through where you're supposed to read the results, they get a little hard to read, hard to interpret, because the dye just messes things up. And if you don't read it at the right time, you you read it at the wrong time, and the results might not be as accurate as you want it to be. In most kits, it'll come with like instructions or a little pamphlet on the inside telling you when to start testing. If you want to start testing the day you finish your period, you totally could, but I don't think you're going to catch anything during that time, because your estrogen levels are not currently increasing, if that makes any sense. But you'll start seeing faint lines once your estrogen or your FSH, which is your follicle stimulating hormone, once you see faint lines, it could be leading to an increase to your LH surge, but it's not guaranteed, because sometimes in some women your LH surge might be so low that it cannot be detected by any test. That's one of the downfalls to using tests, because if your LH hormone is, or your luteinizing hormone, your LH, if it's really low to read but you do have it, your test might not be picking it up. That's one of the downfalls to testing with the strips or testing with any test. The one thing you're gonna have to do if you want to really check it out is to go to a doctor and have them do some blood work, which is something that I did. I got some blood work done today, and this led to me filming this video because I went in for a pap smear and they wanted to check my blood work and see how everything's going, and they said everything was normal. So I had to ask my doctor, then why is my period irregular? What's going on? So she ordered more blood work for me. I did that this morning. I'm waiting for the results. I have to do 3 different testing. 2 of the results I might be able to get by tomorrow, if not today. And then one of them has to get sent to the States because I am in Hawaii. It has to get sent to the States, and then I get the results back between 7 and 10 days, which is going to be the longest days ever. So most, if not all, OPK test kits comes with little instructions and maybe another pamphlet telling you when during your cycle to test. Lots of instructions, and the instructions that I've gotten in all of the different OPK tests that I've purchased, it only tells you up to maybe between 26 or 28 to I think 40 days. It gives you up to 40 to 42 days of a cycle. So say you have 42 days, it'll tell you to start testing on day 26 or something like that. Yeah, one of those days. But if your cycles are irregular like mine and they last 100 days, you don't know when to start testing. That's when it can get really expensive, and that's when it gets really frustrating because you're saying, I'm spending all this money trying to track my LH surge when it's gonna happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So if you don't mind spending the money on it and you're really wanting to know how your body is working when your LH surge is happening, for me, I'm spending the money on it because I really want to know. I really want to start a family, and I just have to know what's going on with my body. But I did talk to my doctor, and I'm using whatever research I'm doing on my end and then whatever my doctor is doing. So, oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. But yeah, use your own knowledge, discretion, whatever you want to do. If you want to spend the money, go ahead. If not, I'd say go to a doctor. That's one of the best things you can do. Again, if your cycle is more than 40 days like me, you don't know when you're ovulating. You don't know if you've ovulated early in your cycle, late in your cycle. And normally, typically, you would ovulate 14 days to 20 days before your next period. But if you don't know when your next period is going to be, that's when it gets really hard and really frustrating. And like I said, you can ovulate early in your cycle, late in your cycle, or you might not be ovulating at all, which is the downfall, which is the scary part. But we all go through it, or I can't say we all go through it, but a lot of us go through it. We all have support systems, whether it's your family member, and if you can't talk to your family members about it, talk to your doctor, because they have non-disclosure agreements. They can't talk to anybody but you and possibly your husband, your wife, or whoever you allow your doctor to talk to. Or you can join Facebook groups, which is something that I did. I joined Facebook groups because I wanted to hear other people's stories, and if their story is the same like mine, so that I know I'm not alone. So, oh, I'm getting emotional. But you can do something like that, and having a support system is so good, so great. And I will leave a link, if I can leave a link, I'll leave links down below to some support systems that I've been using. And if you want to DM me, I'll leave my Instagram down below as well, and we can be each other's support system if you want. So for me, I'm reading off of a notebook because I actually did this while I was waiting in the waiting room. But I would take ovulation tests according to my last cycle. So I've been taking ovulation tests according to my last cycle. And my last cycle, if I remember, my last cycle I think was over 100 days. My last cycle lasted 111 days. So I had a 111-day cycle, which is way too long, but according to that, that's when I kind of justified when to start testing. So I tested about 50 days into my last cycle, which is crazy because I could have probably missed my LH surge, but I've been having faint pink lines or faint lines compared to the test control, or compared to the control, even up to this day. So it's kind of confusing for me. So that's why I talked to my doctor, because I don't know what's going on. Lots of people tell you, even some test kits tell you that during your fertile window, or when you know around the time you're about to ovulate, that's when you want to start testing. Again, that gets really hard if your period is irregular, but testing every day during your estimated fertile window will give you the best chances to getting pregnant, to conceive, if that's what you're planning to do. And it could also tell you when to not have sex so you don't get pregnant. But I'll warn you, because unprotected sex can lead to pregnancy, and you don't want to use avoiding your ovulation week as birth control, because sperm can live in your body 3 to 5 days, and sometimes at most 7 days. So be careful if you're trying to use your ovulation window as your birth control. Don't do that. A few instructions actually tell you to test only for a certain amount of days, and then once all those days are up, stop testing if you haven't reached an LH surge, and then test again next cycle. But the only thing about that is, what if it just takes one more day to hit that LH surge? What if it just takes one more day? That's when it gets tricky, and that's when it gets hard. But you know, do with it what you will. If you want to test more than what the box says, go ahead. I would say if you're, I don't want to use the word desperate, but if you're really wanting to conceive and start a family, I would test every day if your cycle is irregular, because you'll just never know. Again, if your cycle is regular, you might know, but if your cycle is irregular like me, I'm so eager to start a family that I'm testing every single day. And I think a week or so into testing every single day, once I seen the line get darker and darker and darker, like it still hasn't met, or like it's still not the same or darker than the control line, but I've been testing twice a day. I test in the morning around, I test between 7 and 10 o'clock depending on when I gotta pee, because sometimes I don't gotta pee when I wake up. Depending on when I gotta pee, I'll test, and then I'll test again in the afternoon around between 3 and 5 o'clock, and then sometimes if I'm really like eager to test, I'll test between 7 and 10 in the evening. So I test between 2 and 3 times a day, which yes, it does get expensive for me, but for me, I really want to start a family and I really want to learn what's going on with my body. So that is what you want to look for on the test, which was my next point, is that the test line, which is, you know, I think it's like the first line has to be equal or darker than the control line. This is different from a pregnancy test. If you're taking a pregnancy test, the control line can be darker than your test line. So even if you have a slightly faint HCG line, you could be pregnant. So timing sex is totally up to you and your person, but some doctors, even like other like on tests and stuff, it would tell you to have sex every 2 to 3 days, and even every day if you're feeling really ambitious and if you don't feel exhausted. Because sperm can live in a woman's body in a really healthy environment, warm and healthy environment for the sperm. It could live for up to 5 days, 3 to 5 days, sometimes even 7 days if you got really good sperm and you're taking really good vitamins, or your husband is taking really good vitamins. And it'll just hang out, you know, in your uterus, waiting, or in your fallopian tube, waiting for that egg to drop. You know, it's like New Year's for them, waiting for that ball to drop. And Happy New Year to you and your egg. And this is my last point. Have fun. Don't make having sex, trying to conceive, knowing when your fertile window is, don't make it a chore. Don't make having sex a chore, because that's when it becomes not so fun and it gets exhausting and tiring and frustrating and stressed out, because you're trying so hard to have a baby that you're turning it into an assignment. You're turning it into a project to get done, and you want an estimated completion date. You want a estimated arrival time. You can't schedule it. It'll happen on no matter, like, whatever faith you have. I have a God faith. I believe in God. I have a strong Christian faith. For me, I believe it's all in God's timing, and it'll happen when it happens. But I'm praying to God, you know, let it happen now, because I'm ready for it. But other than that, have fun. Don't make it stressful. Yes, test to your heart's content, but don't let the tests define you, because once you have it define you, it's gonna make it really frustrating for you. But anyways, that is it for this video. I'm wearing pajamas. I love you guys so much. Leave me comments down below. I'll leave links down below for you to check out, for you to view, for you to, you know, look into. Again, leave me comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching, and subscribe if you haven't already. Anyways, I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye.